The sound of ripping fabric echoed through the crowded hallway like a gunshot, and in that moment, 17-year-old Jasmine Washington's entire world shifted from invisible to exposed. Tyler Maxwell, star quarterback and son of the district attorney, stood behind her with a piece of her torn skirt in his hand, his crew laughing as hundreds of students turned to stare at the shy black girl desperately trying to cover herself. But what Tyler didn't know was that this humiliation would be the last mistake of his untouchable reign at Westfield High, because sometimes the quietest people have the loudest ways of fighting back. Jasmine had transferred to Westfield High just 3 weeks ago. Another casualty of her mother's job relocation from Detroit to this affluent Connecticut suburb. She'd kept her head down, navigating the pristine hallways with their gleaming trophy cases and designer-clad students like a ghost, trying not to disturb the living. Her second-hand clothes and natural hair made her stand out in all the wrong ways among the straightened blonde locks and Vineyard Vines uniforms that dominated the school's social landscape. That morning had started like any other. She'd carefully ironed her favorite plaid skirt, the one her grandmother had sewn for her 16th birthday, making sure every pleat was perfect. Her mother had already left for her early shift at the hospital, leaving a note reminding Jasmine to kill them with kindness and remember why we're here. They'd moved for better opportunities, her mother always said. But Jasmine wondered if trading their close-knit Detroit neighborhood for this cold, judgmental suburb was worth it. She'd made it through first and second period without incident, keeping to herself in the back row, taking meticulous notes, while other students whispered about weekend parties she'd never be invited to. During passing period, she'd stopped at her locker, fumbling with the combination lock that still gave her trouble. That's when she'd heard Tyler's voice, loud and commanding as always, holding court with his crew of football players and cheerleaders. "Check out Salvation Army Special," he'd said, loud enough for the entire hallway to hear. "Bet that skirt's older than she is." Jasmine had learned to ignore comments like these. In 3 weeks, she'd heard every variation of insult about her clothes, her hair, her skin, her silence. She'd perfected the art of letting words bounce off her like raindrops on an umbrella. But Tyler Maxwell wasn't satisfied with words alone. He'd been the undisputed king of Westfield High since freshman year. His father's position and his own athletic prowess, creating a perfect storm of privilege and power. Teachers looked the other way when he turned in assignments late. Administrators chuckled at his boys will be boys behavior, and students either worshipped him or feared him. There was no in-between. Jasmine had caught his attention precisely because she'd refused to acknowledge his existence. While other new students scrambled to either impress him or avoid him, she'd simply treated him like he was invisible. It was this indifference that had marked her as his next target. As she'd closed her locker and turned to head to third period, Tyler had positioned himself directly in her path. His 6'3" frame towered over her 5'5" height, his Letterman jacket like armor proclaiming his invincibility. His crew formed a semicircle behind him, phones already out, eager to capture whatever humiliation their leader had planned. "Where you going so fast?" Tyler had asked, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Don't you want to hang with us?" Jasmine had tried to step around him, clutching her books to her chest. "Excuse me, I need to get to class." "Class?" Tyler had laughed, his crew echoing him like a Greek chorus. "What's the point? Not like you're going to amount to anything anyway." She'd felt the familiar burn of anger in her chest, but had tamped it down, remembering her mother's words. "Kill them with kindness. Remember why we're here?" She'd taken a deep breath and tried once more to move past him. That's when it happened. Tyler had grabbed the hem of her skirt as she'd tried to pass, and with one violent yank, the old fabric had given way. The sound of tearing cloth had seemed to echo in slow motion, drowning out the gasps and laughter that erupted around them. Jasmine had felt the cool air on her legs, had seen the piece of plaid fabric in Tyler's hand as he'd waved it like a trophy. "Oops," he'd said, his grin wolfish. "Guess that's what happens when you shop at Goodwill." The laughter had been deafening. Phones had appeared from every direction, capturing her humiliation from every angle. Jasmine had stood frozen for a moment that felt like an eternity, her hands desperately trying to hold the torn pieces of her skirt together, her face burning with a mixture of shame and rage that threatened to consume her. But then something had shifted. Instead of crying, instead of running, Jasmine had slowly raised her head and looked Tyler directly in the eye. The laughter had begun to falter as students registered the change in her expression. This wasn't the face of a victim. This was the face of someone who just decided that enough was enough. "You know what?" she'd said, her voice carrying a strength that surprised even her. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life?" Tyler had scoffed, but there'd been something uncertain in his eyes. "What are you gonna do, tell on me? My dad owns half this town." Jasmine had smiled then, a smile that had made several students take a step back. "No, Tyler, I'm not going to tell on you. I'm going to destroy you." With as much dignity as she could muster, she'd walked through the crowd, still holding her torn skirt, heading not to the bathroom to hide but to the library. She had work to do. What Tyler and his crew didn't know was that Jasmine Washington wasn't just some poor girl from Detroit. She was the daughter of a woman who'd raised her to be resourceful, intelligent, and above all, strategic. She'd learned from watching her mother navigate hospital politics that sometimes the best revenge wasn't loud or immediate. Sometimes it was quiet, calculated, and absolutely devastating. In the library, Jasmine had commandeered a computer in the back corner, her fingers flying over the keyboard with practiced ease. She'd spent the last 3 weeks being invisible, but that invisibility had allowed her to observe, to listen, to gather information that others spoke freely around her because they'd forgotten she was there. She'd started with social media, screenshotting every post, every video, every comment about the incident. The footage was already spreading like wildfire. But instead of being upset, Jasmine had seen it as evidence of assault, evidence of sexual harassment, evidence of a pattern of behavior that had gone unchecked for far too long. But she hadn't stopped there. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she opened multiple browser tabs, but her eyes remained fixed on the screen. The adrenaline coursing through her veins made her hyper-aware of every keystroke. She'd posted in a few private online groups before, but this was different this time. She needed to make sure all her evidence was airtight, her trail untraceable until she was ready to reveal it. She wasn't just defending herself. She was preparing to challenge a system that seemed rigged against anyone who didn't fit the Westfield mold. Her first step was capturing every tweet, TikTok clip, and Instagram story that mentioned the skirt incident. She saved them to a flash drive, labeling each file meticulously with names and timestamps. She knew that Westfield High had a reputation for sweeping controversies under the rug, especially if they involved wealthy or prominent students. Tyler Maxwell was practically the golden child of the entire district. But Jasmine was determined to rip that aura away bit by bit. If the school tried to claim it was just a prank that got out of hand, she would counter with video proof of him yanking her skirt. Next, she scoured the internet for any mention of Tyler's past transgressions. Rumors were plentiful, talk of him partying while underage, skipping classes with the principal's silent approval, even a whisper of him intimidating younger kids into doing his homework. But rumors on their own wouldn't be enough. She needed something tangible. To Jasmine's growing satisfaction, she discovered a few archived local news posts about a fight at a football game the previous year. Tyler had apparently punched a rival quarterback, yet miraculously, the charges had vanished. A quiet settlement had occurred behind closed doors, likely orchestrated by Tyler's father, the district attorney. Jasmine copied the screenshots, making sure to highlight the lines referencing Tyler by name. This was just the tip of the iceberg, but it was a start. Her next move was more delicate. She logged onto a new email account she'd created under a pseudonym, Truthseeker117. She composed a short, polite inquiry to the local news station that had reported the brawl. Her message read, in part, "I'm conducting research on Westfield High's football program and was wondering if you have any records or additional details on the altercation involving Tyler Maxwell last year." She signed off simply, then hit send. Her heart pounding. She knew it was a risk, but it was a calculated one. If no one responded, she'd find another angle. By the time lunch period rolled around, Jasmine realized she'd been sitting in front of the computer for almost 2 hours straight, her stomach growling. She pushed back from the keyboard, rubbing her temples. This was only the beginning. She had enough to raise eyebrows, but not enough to topple the Maxwell empire. She needed an ace in the hole, something so incriminating that Tyler couldn't bluff or buy his way out of it. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a single text from a number she didn't recognize. "I saw what happened. Meet me in the courtyard after school. I can help." Her heart skipped a beat. Who was this? Another bully trying to lure her into an ambush? Or maybe a genuine ally? Jasmine typed back a cautious response. "Who are you?" There was no reply. Only silence. She glanced around the library, half expecting someone to be watching her from behind a shelf. But most students were either engrossed in their phones or whispering about weekend plans. Whoever had texted her wasn't about to reveal themselves in public. Despite her suspicion, Jasmine felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. The very fact that someone reached out meant people were paying attention. Her mind raced with possibilities. A conscientious cheerleader who'd had enough of Tyler's arrogance, to another bullying survivor who'd been waiting for someone to stand up to him. Or perhaps a staff member who couldn't openly defy the Maxwell family. She'd have to be careful. But she couldn't pass up the chance for a potential ally. Jasmine spent the rest of the school day trying to stay off the radar. She pulled a spare pair of sweatpants from her gym locker to replace the torn skirt. Word of the incident had spread like wildfire, and she noticed clusters of students whispering whenever she passed. She held her head high, refusing to let her humiliation overshadow her resolve. When the final bell rang, she took a deep breath and headed to the courtyard, bracing herself for whatever awaited her. The courtyard was a manicured open space behind the main building, dotted with benches and flower beds. Jasmine clutched her backpack straps more tightly as she scanned the area. A few students lingered, mostly waiting for rides or chatting in small circles. She didn't see anyone she recognized as a friend. Then, off to the side, a figure in a black hoodie raised a hand in greeting. She approached cautiously, her pulse pounding in her ears. The hooded figure pulled it down to reveal a girl with curly red hair and a scattering of freckles across her nose. Lily Walsh, a junior who wrote for the school newspaper. Jasmine had noticed her before. Lily always seemed to be taking notes. Her expression, a mixture of curiosity and quiet determination. "You're the one who texted me?" Jasmine asked, her voice calm but wary. Lily nodded. "Yeah. Sorry if it was creepy. I had to be discreet. Tyler's friends watch me like hawks because I've written a few unflattering articles about the football team's behavior." Jasmine's tension eased just a fraction. "How did you get my number?" "I saw your name on the new student roster, don't worry. It's not like I hacked the school system or anything. I just convinced a friend in the main office to give it to me." Lily's cheeks turned slightly pink. "Look, I know it might sound sketchy, but I really do want to help. I saw what Tyler did. It was disgusting, and I know this isn't the first time he's harassed someone." Jasmine studied Lily's earnest expression, trying to gauge if this was a trap. "What's your angle?" Lily glanced around to make sure no one was eavesdropping. "I'm sick of him getting away with everything. My editor at the school paper won't let me publish anything that casts him in a bad light, because the administration always blocks it. But we're living in 2025, right? People don't need an official paper to expose the truth. We can use social media, independent blogs, whatever it takes to blow the lid off his fake reputation." Jasmine folded her arms, still not entirely convinced. "It's not just about exposing him. I want to make sure he faces real consequences. His dad has the school board in his pocket. You think a few blog posts are going to stop them?" A fierce determination burned in Lily's eyes. "We might need something bigger. Something that even his dad can't bury. But if we work together, we can figure that out. You've already got evidence, right?" Jasmine's stomach flipped. She hadn't told anyone about her digital deep dive. But Lily had guessed it. "I might have some things," she said carefully. Lily took a step closer, lowering her voice. "Word on the street is that Tyler's been involved in some shady stuff outside of school, something to do with passing around private photos of ex-girlfriends. If we can find proof that he's violating privacy laws, that might be serious enough that even his dad can't make it disappear." Jasmine felt a jolt of disgust. It didn't surprise her that Tyler would stoop to revenge porn or something equally vile if it gave him a twisted sense of power. The question was, how to find and confirm it. "You have any leads?" Lily pursed her lips. I've heard rumors of a group chat among the players. It's mostly memes and trash talk. But supposedly there are pictures too. If we could access that chat, we'd have enough to bury Tyler and probably a bunch of his buddies, and a police. Jasmine hesitated. How do we do that without getting ourselves in trouble? Leave that to me. I know a couple of people on the team who aren't happy with Tyler. They might be willing to hand over screenshots if we promise anonymity. But I'll need your help organizing everything and making sure we present it in a way that's undeniable. Jasmine took a deep breath. This was bigger than a simple confrontation. They were talking about systematically dismantling Tyler's social standing and possibly bringing legal repercussions. She thought about her mother's sacrifices, about the future she wanted. She wasn't the type to pick a fight for fun. But this wasn't just about her anymore. It's about every target Tyler had ever chosen, and every target he would choose if no one stopped him. All right, she said, extending her hand. Let's do this. Lily grasped Jasmine's hand, and in that moment, an unspoken alliance was formed. We'll coordinate after school. I'll text you when I have updates. Lily pulled the hoodie back over her hair and slipped away, merging into the thinning crowd of students heading for the parking lot. That evening, Jasmine sat at the small dining table in her family's modest apartment. The complex was a world away from the gated communities surrounding Westfield High, but at least it was safe and clean. The smell of stir-fry drifted from the kitchen, where her mother was humming a soft tune between sips of coffee. Trying to stay alert after her early shift at the hospital, Jasmine stared at her laptop, phone, and the flash drive lying in front of her. She wondered how much to share with her mother. On one hand, her mother had always encouraged her to stand up for herself and do what was right. On the other, Jasmine didn't want to cause her any additional stress. Her mother appeared at the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. You've been quiet tonight. Everything okay, baby? Jasmine forced a small smile. Just school stuff. Mom, homework, that sort of thing. MD. Her mother studied her for a moment. You know, I may be a little busy these days, but I notice things. You came home wearing sweatpants. Not that nice skirt Grandma made. Did something happen at school? Jasmine felt a pang of guilt. She'd wanted to protect her mother from the worry, but the older woman's gentle concern made her eyes sting. Some jerk pulled a prank. I'm fine. Though, her mother's expression hardened. A prank? Did it hurt you? No, not physically. Jasmine admitted, tears threatening to spill. She took a calming breath. He tore my skirt in front of everyone. But please don't worry. Mom, I have a plan to deal with it. I'm not just letting it slide. And her mother set the towel down, walked over, and pulled Jasmine into a tight hug. Oh, my sweet girl. I'm so sorry. I know how much that skirt meant to you. She pulled back, brushing tears from Jasmine's cheek. But are you sure you're safe? These aren't bullies on the playground anymore. Some of these kids have powerful families. And Jasmine swallowed. I know, but I can't just let him humiliate me like that. He's been doing this to people for years, and everyone's too scared to stand up to him. Oh, her mother's eyes searched hers. You have to be careful, but I trust you. If you need me to talk to the principal, just say the word. Oh. Jasmine shook her head. Not yet. I have to handle this on my terms. But I appreciate the offer. Oh. They shared a lingering moment of understanding. Her mother nodded, then kissed Jasmine's forehead. All right, but you come to me if it gets out of hand. I mean it. With that, she returned to the kitchen to finish cooking. Alone again. Jasmine ran a finger over the flash drive. She felt a surge of determination. She had the backing of at least one other student journalist, and she had her mother's quiet support. If she played her cards right, Tyler Maxwell and his father wouldn't know what hit them. Over the next few days, Jasmine and Lily communicated mostly through encrypted messages. Lily had indeed found a willing informant, Kyle Peterson, a second-string running back who was tired of playing Tyler's errand boy. Kyle confessed to Lily that Tyler often forced younger players to pick up his laundry, deliver his fast food orders, and even write his papers in exchange for a promise of anonymity and a guarantee that no one would trace the evidence back to him. Kyle provided Lily with screenshots of the players' group chat. The images made Jasmine's blood boil, Mixed in with the usual teenage banter and sports memes were explicit photos of at least 3 different girls. The pictures were accompanied by crude jokes and demeaning commentary. While Tyler wasn't the only one participating, he was clearly the ringleader. He posted the photos first and urged others to rate the girls. There were references to body counts and bet you can't get her to do it in the locker room. One of the pictures included a young woman who looked barely out of middle school, prompting a wave of revulsion from Jasmine. This was more than just typical teenage gossip. It was evidence of serious violations that could lead to criminal charges. Jasmine and Lily carefully cataloged each screenshot. They blurred out the victims' faces to protect their identity, but they highlighted Tyler's comments, linking them to his official Instagram handle. Then Jasmine worked her digital magic, cross-referencing the image's metadata to confirm timestamps and device IDs. The more thorough their documentation, the harder it would be for Tyler's father to spin this as fake news or a harmless teenage mistake. But for their plan to truly succeed, they needed more than just the group chat. They needed testimonies from the victims themselves. Lily tapped into her network, whispering discreetly to a few girls rumored to have been harassed by Tyler. Most were too scared to talk, convinced that Tyler's father would ruin their families, their futures. But one girl agreed to speak. Naomi Brooks, a shy sophomore whose trust Tyler had broken in a particularly cruel way. Lily arranged a meeting at a local coffee shop one Saturday morning. Jasmine arrived early, fidgeting with her phone at a corner table. The cafe was filled with the comforting hum of espresso machines and quiet chatter, a welcome contrast to Westfield High's hostile hallways. She watched as Lily walked in with Naomi, a slender girl in an oversized hoodie who looked like she wanted to shrink into the floor. "Naomi, this is Jasmine," Lily said gently, guiding the girl to sit. "Jasmine's the one who—" "I know who she is," Naomi blurted, her eyes darting from Lily to Jasmine. "Everyone at school's talking about what Tyler did to her skirt. I'm sorry you went through that." M0. Jasmine offered a sympathetic smile. "I'm sorry about whatever you went through too. Tyler's a monster." And Naomi swallowed hard, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "He wasn't always that way. At least he didn't seem like it. When we started texting, he acted like he really liked me. Said I was different. Special. We messed around a bit. Just kissing, you know? But then he pressured me to send him a photo. I never wanted it to go anywhere else. I trusted him." Her voice wavered, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. "Next thing I know, he's showing it to his friends in that stupid group chat. There's a screenshot with the words, 'Tyler Maxwell uploaded.' I had no idea until one of the guys from the team slipped up and mentioned it." Lily reached over and squeezed Naomi's hand. "I'm so sorry." Naomi sniffed, wiping her tears with her sleeve. "He thinks I can't do anything because his dad is the DA. And he might be right. I'm just a kid from a normal family. You know, we can't afford legal battles or anything like that. My parents would kill me if they found out I sent that photo in the first place." Oh, Jasmine felt a surge of empathy and righteous anger. "But what Tyler did is still illegal. If you don't want to go through official channels, that's understandable. But we're putting together everything we can to take him down. If we have your testimony, even if it's anonymous, it would help prove that he's been distributing these photos without consent." Naomi's eyes flickered with fear. "Anonymous? How would that even work?" Lily explained their plan. They would redact Naomi's name and face from any publicly released documents, referring to her only as Victim A or something similar. They'd use screen recordings of the group chat as the main evidence, with an audio statement from Naomi's voice, altered via a simple digital filter to protect her identity. "It might not completely protect you if the Maxwell family hires investigators," Lily admitted. "But it's a step, and if enough people come forward, they won't be able to single you out as easily." And of not. Naomi bit her lip. "You really think this will work?" Jasmine nodded. "If we're coordinated and smart about how we release this, yes. Tyler's dad might control a lot, but he doesn't control the internet. Once the story goes viral, it'll be out of his hands." Naomi thought for a long moment, eyes downcast. Finally, she exhaled shakily. "All right, I'll do it. I just want him to be held accountable. I'm so tired of feeling scared. A wave of relief washed over Jasmine. Thank you. You're brave. They spent the next hour recording Naomi's story on Lily's phone. Naomi broke down several times, but each time she wiped her tears and continued, determined to unburden herself of the secret she'd been carrying for months. The coffee shop chatter provided just enough ambient noise to mask their conversation from curious ears. By the end, Naomi looked emotionally drained but also lighter, as though she'd finally shared a weight that had been crushing her. Once they had Naomi's testimony, Jasmine and Lily set about constructing a digital case file. They organized screenshots, transcripts, timestamps, and Naomi's audio statement into a concise but devastating exposé. Lily used her journalistic flair to structure it like a news article, complete with subheadings. Pattern of abuse. Abuse of privilege? Legal implications? They decided to host the file on a secure platform known for whistleblowing. Once it went live, they'd share the link across social media channels. The key was timing. They needed to build suspense before dropping the bombshell, ensuring maximum visibility and damage. Meanwhile, Jasmine started noticing the subtle ways Tyler's crew was closing ranks around him. A couple of times in the hallway, she caught them glaring at her, whispering to each other with phones in hand. One morning, she found the word slut scrawled across her locker in permanent marker. She refused to be intimidated, simply reporting the vandalism to the janitor and moving on. She also changed her phone number after receiving a flood of anonymous texts, ranging from insults to veiled threats. If anything, their harassment only steeled her resolve. The more they tried to scare her off, the more convinced she became that she was onto something big. The following week, Westfield High was abuzz with preparations for the annual homecoming game. Banners declaring, "Go Westfield Warriors," hung in every hallway, and cheerleaders roamed the corridors, selling tickets for the big dance. Tyler Maxwell's face was plastered on every pep rally poster, as he was the star quarterback expected to lead us to victory. Jasmine felt a surge of disgust each time she saw his smug grin immortalized in glossy print. Lily proposed that they schedule their exposé to go live the night before homecoming. It was the perfect storm. The entire school and much of the town would be hyped for the game, and the community's attention would be at its peak. If the revelations came out, then Tyler wouldn't just face public shame, he could be booed on his own field, a humiliation that might finally crack his veneer of invincibility. The day before the release, Jasmine was cornered by Tyler's main lackey, a linebacker named Brett Thompson. In an empty hallway after last period, he loomed over her, arms crossed. "Whatever you're up to, drop it," he growled. "You think you can come in here and ruin Tyler's life because you're too sensitive for a joke? You don't know who you're messing with?" Jasmine looked up at him calmly. "I'm not scared of you or Tyler." Brett sneered. "You should be. Tyler's dad can make problems disappear. He'll do it for you, too." Jasmine felt a flicker of fear but refused to show it. "You tell Tyler his threats won't work on me. If he didn't want trouble, he shouldn't have started it." Brett leaned in closer, his voice low and menacing. "You think you're some crusader for justice? You're just a nobody, a freak from Detroit who doesn't belong here." He spat the words with palpable contempt. "Go back to wherever you came from. This is your last warning." Jasmine held her ground, meeting his glare. "Thanks for the heads up," she said, her tone icy. "Now get out of my way." Brett stared at her for a second, as if he couldn't believe her nerve. Then he let out a frustrated snort and stormed off. Jasmine released a shaky breath. Part of her wanted to run to the principal, but she knew it would be useless. Besides, they were too close to their grand reveal to risk any administrative intervention that might tip Tyler off. She would endure the threats a little longer. That night, Lily and Jasmine had a final online call, making sure all the documents were in order. Lily had crafted a punchy headline that spoke directly to the town's illusions about their football hero. Local star quarterback's secret group chat exposed. Harassment. Explicit photos. And silence from Westfield High? Underneath, bullet points hinted at the evidence. Screenshots. Statements from victims. Tyler's own incriminating messages. We go live at 9 p. Lily said, her voice wavering with anticipation. I'll blast the link on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You do the same. We've got some people in the local activist community ready to share it too. Jasmine nodded. She could practically feel her heart thumping in her throat. Tyler's going to lose his mind. That's the plan, Lily replied, forcing a tight smile. You ready? Jasmine took a deep breath. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. They ended the call. Jasmine stared at the clock on her laptop. 8:57 p.m. She tapped her fingers nervously, rereading the post one last time, double-checking that every link worked, that each screenshot was clear, that Naomi's voice was properly modulated. Everything looked good. At 9 o'clock p.m. sharp, Jasmine hit the publish button. It felt like letting go of a breath she'd been holding for weeks. Within minutes, notifications started flooding in. Comments, retweets, shares each, a digital ripple expanding outward from the tiny stone they'd thrown into the pond of Westfield's complacency. Jasmine's phone buzzed incessantly. Some messages were supportive. OMG, how could the school let this happen? Others were angry. This is disgusting. He should be in jail. And some were the predictable vitriol from Tyler's defenders. Fake news. She's just a clout chaser. But the overall reaction seemed to be one of shock and outrage directed at Tyler. By midnight, the local news stations were already picking up the story. Hashtags like #expose Tyler Maxwell and #Westfield cover-up trended locally on social media. Parents who had read the expose demanded explanations from school officials. An anonymous staff member confirmed that there had been multiple complaints about Tyler over the years that mysteriously disappeared from his record. Jasmine felt a grim satisfaction watching the scandal unfold in real time. She tried to sleep that night, but the adrenaline kept her wide awake. At around 2 a.m., her phone rang. Lily's voice was breathless with excitement and panic. They're having an emergency school board meeting tomorrow morning. Apparently, half the town is up in arms, calling for Tyler's removal from the team. Mr. Maxwell issued some statement about false allegations and fake screenshots, but nobody's buying it. Jasmine's mind raced. They can't bury this, right? Not with the local stations and everyone else all over it. That's what I'm hoping. The public outcry is huge. There are already parents threatening to protest outside the school. And get this, Naomi told me her parents confronted her about the story. She was terrified. But, in the end, they supported her. They're actually considering pressing charges if the DA tries to deny everything. Jasmine let out a relieved breath. That's good. That's really good. Lily hesitated. Just be careful coming to school tomorrow. People are going nuts. Tyler's diehard friends might be on the warpath, and his father is probably scrambling for damage control. Jasmine swallowed hard. She remembered Brett's threatening words. I'll keep my head down, but I'm not hiding. See you tomorrow? See you tomorrow, Lily agreed, and hung up. The next morning, Westfield High's usually immaculate lawn was swarming with news vans and angry parents holding signs that said things like, "Protect our kids" and "Zero tolerance for sexual harassment." The principal, a harried-looking middle-aged man named Mr. Burnham, tried in vain to usher reporters off school property. Tyler Maxwell was nowhere to be seen. Jasmine navigated through the chaos. Shoulders squared, she spotted Lily on the edge of the crowd, scribbling in her notebook. A press badge from the school newspaper pinned to her shirt. Lily lifted her head and waved. Jasmine nodded in return, her heart pounding. This was actually happening. The untouchable Tyler Maxwell was suddenly the most reviled figure in town. Halfway to the main entrance, Jasmine was intercepted by a local television reporter who thrust a microphone toward her. "Miss, are you a student here? Do you have any comment on the allegations against Tyler Maxwell?" Jasmine glanced at the camera, her pulse roaring in her ears. Part of her wanted to shrink away, but another part realized this was a crucial moment. She'd started this fire. She might as well stoke it. She forced herself to speak evenly. "Yes, I'm a student, and I think it's about time the truth came out. Bullying, harassment, and abuse of power have no place here or anywhere. That's all I have to say." She turned and walked swiftly into the building, ignoring the reporter's follow-up questions. Inside, a strange hush had fallen over the corridors. Students clustered in small groups, talking in hushed tones, shooting Jasmine furtive or admiring glances. Some approached her to whisper words of support. Others, especially football players and cheerleaders, glared as if she'd committed an act of high treason. She felt a jolt of satisfaction at how the tables had turned. She was no longer the invisible girl, nor was she simply the victim of a cruel prank. She was a catalyst for change. First period was canceled so the administration could hold an emergency assembly in the auditorium. Students filed in, buzzing with anticipation. Jasmine and Lily sat together near the back. On stage, Principal Burnham stood at the podium, flanked by a couple of stern-faced school board members. An empty chair on the stage presumably awaited Mr. Maxwell, but he didn't show. As many of you know, Principal Burnham began, his voice taut with strain. "Certain allegations have surfaced concerning the behavior of one of our students, Tyler Maxwell. The school board takes these matters very seriously, effective immediately. Tyler Maxwell is suspended from all school activities, including the football team, pending a full investigation." And a collective gasp rippled through the auditorium. For years, Tyler had been untouchable. Hearing the words suspended and investigation attached to his name felt surreal. Jasmine noticed a couple of the football players looking downright panicked. Principal Burnham cleared his throat. "I also want to remind everyone that we value the safety and well-being of all our students. If you have been a victim of bullying or harassment, please come forward to a trusted teacher or counselor. We have resources available to help you. The board will continue to cooperate with local authorities as necessary." And his words sounded rehearsed, likely drafted by a legal team, but the impact was still monumental. The assembly ended with a solemn warning that any retaliatory behavior would not be tolerated. As they shuffled out, Lily nudged Jasmine. "We did it," she whispered. "He's actually suspended. I never thought I'd see the day." And Jasmine's jaw tightened. "It's not over yet. You know, Mr. Maxwell is going to do everything in his power to bail Tyler out. The question is whether the system is going to bend this time or finally break." And true to Jasmine's prediction, Mr. Maxwell launched a full-scale counteroffensive within hours. A statement from his office dismissed the exposé as fabrications by disgruntled individuals seeking attention. He alleged that the screenshots were doctored and that any intimate photos were shared consensually. He threatened to file lawsuits for defamation against any party perpetuating these lies. But the public mood had shifted. Naomi's story had galvanized other victims, some of whom started messaging Jasmine and Lily with similar experiences. A sophomore emailed Lily screenshots of Tyler's direct messages, proving repeated harassment. A junior revealed that Tyler had given her alcohol at a party before pressuring her to hook up. Even the local news stations, once docile in the face of the DA's influence, saw the wave of public outrage and smelled blood in the water. They ran follow-up pieces featuring interviews with parents demanding Tyler's expulsion. Meanwhile, the homecoming game loomed that evening. The big question was whether Tyler would show up and if the school would let him play despite the suspension. Rumors circulated that Mr. Maxwell might try to get an injunction allowing his son back on the field, claiming due process. Some students even speculated Tyler might appear in defiance of the suspension, simply waltzing onto the field as though nothing had changed. Jasmine and Lily decided to attend the game, partly out of a sense of morbid curiosity, and partly because they wanted to witness the climax of the uproar they'd unleashed. Naomi agreed to come with them, bolstered by her parents' newfound support. She was still terrified, but determined to see justice done. The stadium lights blazed over the field as the stands filled with families, alumni, and local residents. Pep bands played fight songs, concession stands sold hot dogs and soda, and cheerleaders tried to rouse the crowd. The tension was palpable. Most people were there to watch a football game, but a large contingent had come purely to see if Tyler would show his face and how the crowd would react if he did. Jasmine and her small group took seats in the middle rows, scanning the field. The team ran out in their jerseys, minus their star quarterback. A few minutes before kickoff, the announcer's voice crackled through the speakers. "And now, your Westfield Warriors." The cheerleaders shook their pom-poms, but the energy felt subdued. There was no mention of Tyler's name. Just before the coin toss, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Jasmine craned her neck to see Mr. Maxwell on the sidelines. Wearing a tailored suit and a tense expression, he appeared to be speaking heatedly with the coach, who shook his head vigorously. Tyler was nowhere in sight. After a moment, Mr. Maxwell stomped away, leaving the coach with a face like thunder. The game began, but the Warriors seemed scattered, missing their star player. Their backup quarterback struggled under the intense pressure of the swirling controversy. The opposing team quickly gained a 2-touchdown lead, and by halftime, the stands were thick with uneasy chatter about how Westfield High was finally reaping the consequences of enabling Tyler for so long. Jasmine and Lily exchanged looks as the scoreboard showed a lopsided 21-3. "Karma," Lily murmured, though there was no joy in her tone. The entire spectacle felt equal parts cathartic and sought a communal reckoning with a broken system. Suddenly, the crowd stirred. A figure appeared in the far end zone, pushing through a gate meant for authorized personnel only. It was Tyler Maxwell, still wearing his Letterman jacket, as though clinging to some semblance of his old glory. A hush fell. Security guards approached him, and for a moment it seemed they might escort him out. Then Mr. Maxwell rushed over, pointing an angry finger at the guards and flashing what looked like a legal document. The stands erupted in murmurs. Some people booed. Others stood up to see better. Jasmine's heart pounded. Was Tyler really going to force his way onto the field? The father-son duo marched up to the coach, who looked stunned. Mr. Maxwell shoved the paper in the coach's face, apparently an injunction allowing Tyler to play despite the suspension. The coach gaped, then turned to the referee. Gesturing helplessly, the ref threw up his hands and conferred with officials on the sideline. Confusion reigned as the crowd grew louder. Eventually, unbelievably, Tyler jogged onto the field, adjusting his helmet as if nothing had happened. Boos rained down from a large portion of the stands, while a smaller group of supporters cheered weakly. The spectacle was surreal. A disgraced quarterback returning under the protective shield of a father's legal might. Jasmine felt sick to her stomach. "Unbelievable," Lily muttered, her knuckles white on the railing. "They're just going to let him play?" Naomi's voice trembled with anger. "This is so wrong." The referee blew the whistle for the second half. Tyler lined up behind center. On the first snap, he took the ball and tried to run a quarterback sneak, but the opposing team's defensive line seemed charged with righteous fury. They slammed Tyler to the turf. Cheers erupted, but also a few gasps as he lay there, stunned, before staggering back to his feet. On the next down, Tyler fumbled the snap, and the opposing team recovered. The crowd roared again, many reveling in his humiliation. Jasmine wasn't one to wish physical harm on anyone, but she couldn't deny a grim satisfaction in seeing the untouchable Tyler struggle in front of everyone. The frustration was clear on Tyler's face. As the game wore on, he threw an interception that was nearly returned for a touchdown. A chorus of jeers and chants filled the stadium. "Check the chat! Check the chat!" The chant referenced the group chat scandal, and Tyler could no longer block out the hatred emanating from his own peers. He couldn't hide behind a confident grin or paternal privilege out there on the field. With each mistake, the scoreboard grew more dire for Westfield High. By the final whistle, they'd lost 35-6. Their worst defeat in years. Tyler stumbled off the field, pulling off his helmet, tears of rage and humiliation streaking his face. The jeers followed him all the way to the locker room. Mr. Maxwell stormed behind him, yelling at the coach. There was anyone who would listen, but the damage was done. The following Monday, a state investigation team arrived at Westfield High. They set up in the guidance office, summoning students one by one to give statements about bullying, harassment, and the events detailed in the exposé. Jasmine, Lily, and Naomi provided extensive testimony. They also handed over the original files, ensuring that investigators could verify the evidence chain. Word spread that Tyler Maxwell was staying home, allegedly under house arrest, by his furious father, who now faced mounting pressure from voters skeptical of a DA who couldn't keep his own son in check. Within 2 weeks, the school board announced that Tyler Maxwell was officially expelled from Westfield High, effective immediately. Criminal charges were being considered regarding his distribution of explicit images, but that was still unfolding. Mr. Maxwell issued a carefully worded statement about respecting the school's decision, but reserved the right to appeal in court. However, the tide of public opinion had turned decisively against him. Calls for his resignation as DA grew louder, with some community activists labeling him complicit in enabling his son's criminal behavior. As for Jasmine, the immediate aftermath was a swirl of emotions: relief, pride, and lingering trauma from being humiliated so publicly. Yet she felt stronger than ever before. She'd taken a stand. She, a quiet girl from Detroit who was told to keep her head down and be grateful just to be in this wealthy suburb, she'd proven that with enough determination, even the powerful could be toppled. In the weeks that followed, Jasmine got a new skirt from her grandmother, another plaid design, this one with a note stitched into the waistband that read, "Stand tall." She wore it proudly to school, where whispers of support replaced the old ridicule. She still wasn't the most popular girl, nor did she want to be, but she felt a sense of belonging on her own terms. She'd found her voice and used it to champion not just herself but others who were too scared to speak. Lily continued writing hard-hitting pieces for her personal blog, which now had a significant local following. The school newspaper remained timid, but Lily's freelance work attracted attention from bigger news outlets. She credited Jasmine for inspiring her to pursue real journalism, not just puff pieces. Naomi, though still dealing with the emotional scars, found a support group among the other girls who'd come forward. Their shared experience bonded them in a way that turned trauma into camaraderie. The administration, under intense scrutiny, pledged to reform its policies on bullying and harassment. Teachers received new training, and a Title IX coordinator was brought in to ensure accountability. On a crisp autumn afternoon, just a month after Tyler's expulsion, Jasmine made her way to the small park near her apartment. She needed some fresh air and a moment to herself. Sitting on a wooden bench under a canopy of orange and red leaves, she pulled out her phone to check her messages. She saw a notification from Lily. "We did it. Girl, everyone's talking about how the Maxwell family is basically done in this town." And Jasmine typed back a simple reply: "Justice served." Then she looked up at the vibrant sky. Taking in the scent of fallen leaves, she felt a surge of gratitude for her mother's unwavering support, for Lily's partnership, for Naomi's bravery, and for every person who had dared to speak the truth. She remembered the day Tyler tore her skirt, how exposed and powerless she'd felt. She never wanted anyone else to feel that way again. Sometimes the quietest people have the loudest ways of fighting back. She stood, brushing off her skirt, her new one, the symbol of her resilience, and headed home. There was still so much work to be done, so many battles being fought across the country over issues just like this. But for now, she allowed herself to savor the victory she and her friends had won, a victory that proved, in no uncertain terms, that no amount of privilege or money could protect a bully from the truth.